Can you tell us the good parts? What are your favourite things about being a mother? Watching The Lion King with your own child. Core memory right there. Sleep update for both kiddos. Oh my god, like listen to me. Yeah, looking at my kids' little hands when I get mad helps me assess my expectations. What's actually making me mad? Is it him? Or is he just being a child? And am I just f***ing exhausted? Okay, I am joining you from my floor bed. You see that little guard thing? It makes my mattress on the floor essentially into a cot. Coffee gets me through motherhood. I don't drink alcohol. I'm not about the mammy wine culture. And so Thomas, my husband, and my dad, we all went in on a very fancy coffee machine as our like present to each other for Christmas. It's just a gift to all of us. It's so divine. We only set it up yesterday and I'm so obsessed. Today is a get ready with me and a parenting Q&A and motherhood Q&A. My baby, my daughter, is now almost a toddler. She's 11 months old and my son is 3 and I'm fully in matrescence, like in the trenches. The trenches are not just the first few weeks after you give birth, and I think we all need more content like this. This is what we need. We are all, as mothers, I think, crying out for connection with other parents. I get a lot of questions from yous, and so I put out a question box on Instagram and I thought I would just answer as many of them as I can in a video while I get ready. I'm going to link every single product that I'm using in the description box, which I don't usually remember to do, but I will do it this time. But it's just because I don't want to ruin the flow of the Q&A. But yeah, this isn't just for mothers, it's for pregnant folk, it's for people who don't have kids. Just you tell me why you're here. But lads, I am going to a skincare event today by myself, no kids, just little old me going into town without the baby for the first time. First time in 11 months I've gone off for a few hours without her. And, you know, I do not like leaving my kids. I get quite anxious being away, and I don't think that's just a breastfeeding related thing, because my daughter only breastfeeds like 4 times during the day now. I don't know what it is. I'm going through a very anxious time in my life, and I'm not sure is that related to what's happening in Gaza. Seeing kids and mothers suffering, it just hits so bad. And I've been finding myself a lot of the time looking at my kids and just my eyes welling up with tears. I can't help but put myself in the shoes of people who are losing their children, and I feel incredibly grateful to live in a relatively peaceful country. I say relatively, we did have riots in town not that long ago. Let's just start the Q&A, okay? Were you always sure you wanted children? Quite a few people asked this, and you know, how to know if you want children and this kind of thing. So yes, I always knew I wanted kids, even when I was a little child, and I'd be playing with dolls and I'd be experiencing my own childhood, you know, Christmases and all that. I always thought about the future, and when I had my own kids, from when I was a child, like I used to have this little diary, and in it I would draw pictures of myself and whoever my crush was, and I would imagine a family with them. And like anytime I was in love, my brain would automatically jump to, will this person be the person I have a family with? Like my broodiness peaked at around, I think I was like 22, and I absolutely was not in a position at all to be thinking about having kids, because my mental health was just all over the place, and I was in university, I had no money, I wasn't in a happy relationship. And anyway, I went through a phase when I was in my mid-20s where I genuinely worried it wouldn't happen for me. And so I kind of started this process of not even grieving it, but just, I think, trying to picture life without that. How am I going to make sure that I have a fulfilling fun, full, amazing life. And so my life was all about traveling and friends, and I was developing hobbies, and I was pursuing every other avenue.
You can play with other kids and give them back.
Ultimately, where I landed was I couldn't like get the voice to die off, like, I want kids, I want to be a mom, I couldn't ignore it, and that's what I was doing. I was ignoring it, and I was kind of trying to try on the skin of a person who could take it or leave it. Yeah, I thought, fake it till you make it kind of a thing, but if I was honest with myself, like, I wanted a family. It was pretty scary admitting that to myself, because then I had to, like, admit that to anyone I was gonna be dating, like, very soon into the dating process. I'd have to kind of figure out how to bring that up, or even just suss out how they felt about it. So anyway, yeah, I didn't really go through the whole, like, I'm not really sure if I want this kind of a thing. Like, I sometimes had moments where I think, like, I'm not that good with other people's kids. Like, I find it a little bit uncomfortable, actually, when other people's kids just, like, come up to me or touch me or sit on my lap or whatever. But everyone always told me it feels different with your own kids. And I do agree with that. My kids feel like my limbs. Advice for feeling like you have so much to fit in before having kids. Example, travel, living abroad, stuff like that. I visited a lot of countries before I had kids. Funnily enough, I almost sometimes wish, like, I didn't know how fun it was to just kind of travel and stuff. And I'm married to a pilot. Like, you'd think, and I thought, like, it would be really easy to just travel with kids and everything like that. It just is not. It's and you can't even explain that unless you're in it. Like, if you know, moving away obviously means you're, like, leaving behind your network, the people that you can rely on in an emergency. And when you have a small kid, that's very scary. So I do think if you can do those things when you're young, absolutely fire away. But, if you can't afford that kind of stuff, I fully intend on doing a ton of travel when I'm a bit older, and traveling with my own children, my own grown children, just sounds very fun. Once they're old enough to, like, wake up in the morning and be able to, like, make their own breakfast, and, like, when they're at that level of independence, I just feel like travel is going to be unbelievable. So please don't think that, like, if you're a young mother or something like that, and you're like, oh, I never got to do any of that stuff. There is so much time for all that, and just because you didn't do it beforehand doesn't mean you're never going to get to do it. But also, like, yeah, I totally get feeling like you're missing out on that kind of thing when you see your friends who don't have kids, like, doing this, that, and the other, because there is just a level of sacrifice having kiddos, but what you're getting from what you're swapping out is so unbelievably amazing. Like, can you tell us the good parts? What are your favourite things about being a mother? This is something I feel like maybe I don't talk about enough, because I probably wrongly assume that it's obvious, but I forget that I don't, tell yous or show yous everything, and I don't really show my kids. Like my phone is just full of the most adorable videos of my kids, and because I don't share them online in any real way, you're not seeing so much of the good stuff. Like, I might kind of open up about the harder parts, which we're gonna go into in this video, and I often do, because I feel a responsibility to be honest about that stuff, because there's so much fakeness online. Fakeness is the wrong word. It's impossible to really show the full rounded reality of it. Think about it like, homes, people's houses. Influencers will clean up a room before they film it, in the same way they'll clean it up before someone comes over to your house to visit. Like, it's you're never gonna really be in it. And so, like, I do try and talk about the messier aspects and the harder parts and stuff like that, but like falling in love, you can never explain what the process of falling in love with your partner was like to someone else, because they weren't in your body. Like, it's impossible. But literally most of it is good. Most of it is amazing. A lot of the harder parts of it are not it itself. Like feeding your child, holding your child, kissing your child, bathing them, singing to them, talking to them, watching them learn, like none of that itself is hard. What's hard is just that it's constant and is never ending, and there's no reprieve or breaks, like real breaks, because even when you're having a little break or a little nap or a little 10-minute coffee alone, you're thinking about them. And that's kind of the part I think that most people bang on about, and it puts some people off, it scares people, and I hate that because almost all of it is unbelievably amazing. Like when your own child that you have made in your body grows up and starts telling you why their favorite color is yellow, you are not ready for that. Like you have no idea how literally unbelievably amazing it is. And just to like watch them process the most basic parts of life, the expressions and the little questions, and even just like cuddles on the couch every time they taste a new thing, every time they go to a new place or see a new bug or learn a new word, having baths with them, cuddling them in bed. Like it is absolutely magical. It's so unbelievably fulfilling and beautiful. My husband and I are there with these two little people, our little bestest little buddies, who we're just so obsessed with, and we just would do anything for them. I would kill for them, I would die for them. I literally I hate feet. I grab their feet and sniff them, and I'm like, your feet are amazing, I'm obsessed with you. Like it is the kind of love that there's just no words for. The reason mothers don't bang on about this stuff is because you get worried about saying it wrong in case someone else who doesn't want children thinks that you're saying, oh, so you think that my life without kids is, you know, this, that, or the other, or I'll never have anything that amazing. And, you know, you just, like, you kind of just want to avoid all that. And the way we are, like human nature, we tend to want to vent to each other, but we don't often want to just sit and like talk about how beautiful a piece of music is. Look at the way the news is. The news is supposed to be, you know, updating us on what's going on in the world, and it focuses on the bad stuff because that's what we kind of do be more interested in connecting on, is the bad stuff, because it helps us to process the bad stuff. It's just the way we work. And it's very rare that I've sat with a friend and just had a conversation about all of the movies we love and why we love them. We'll often talk about a movie and just pick it apart, and you know, that kind of way. So like, just know that about mothers online, because the majority of what you see will be people talking about the harder aspects of motherhood, and that does not always mean mothering. That often just means having kids in this modern world we live in, where things are not the way that they should be. Like we are a species that evolved in a certain way, and we evolved in tribes, in communities, very community orientated, hunter-gatherer societies. And like one of the questions I got was, why is it so lonely being a mum, baby too, and it's still isolating? Oh my god, like listen to me, it is not meant to be the way it is. I benefit very much from capitalism. I'm not here to bash capitalism. It's not all just about capitalism, but the way we have built our societies means that women who have babies are spending their time in a house alone while their partner, if they have a partner, is in work, or they're, you know, going off to work, they're giving their baby to someone else, and then they're coming home and having to do all of the whole evening and nighttime parenting, and then going back to work. Like, whatever way you look at it, I would just like to say, I'm not a makeup artist. You're not watching this video to learn how to put on lipstick, but this is not how you do it. You don't just go in with the bullet and do a Miranda Sings job. But like, I am a mom and I don't have that much free time. So this is how I do it. But if you want to be doing it properly, follow all those makeup girlies on Instagram. They know what they're fucking doing. The way it is not the way it's meant to be. Babies and kids have always had lots of adult caregivers around all the time. Those adult caregivers, while yes, they of course had their own stresses, like, you know, harsh weather conditions, trying to figure out how to get food and stuff. The modern pressures of the cost of living and the internet, all of the layers that social media has added on to like our awareness of how everyone else parents, what everyone else does and doesn't do, what they have. Then there's like school and there's university and there's just so many more expectations of just everyone, that life isn't all about just staying alive and connection. That's what, you know, we're born to connect, eat, breathe, drink water, have sex, have fun, tell each other stories. Like, now everyone is on a hamster wheel. And even think of being in a home. Like, I am in a lovely house that I'm so happy to have, but running an entire house and all the stuff we accumulate and all that, that's not natural. It's fine until you throw a baby in there as well, and the baby is like a 24 hours job. And so simple tasks like, by the way, I was sent this brush set by Et al. Just want to say thank you. I don't know who sent me these, but they're really, really good. But yeah, like, before you have a baby, you know, grand, you can juggle, you know, whatever, your degree or your job with all of the clothes washing, all of the dishwashing, all of the cooking, all of the organising of the stuff, getting to and from shops, all of the lists, all of the mental load of just living. And then throwing in being fully responsible for an infant and them being depending on you completely for, like, they're completely helpless. Then you're like, why is it so much harder for me to just, you know, go to the shop and go to the library? Because, oh yeah, now I'm working around naps and feeding and nappy changes, and if you've got more than one kid, like, it's just so much more complicated. Like, when I had my baby, you know, that this whole first year has been like, her naps are at different times than his nap. It becomes a whole operation to go somewhere. It just does. And you still do it, but it's very, very stressful. So you tend to not do it as much as what you would like. And that obviously is going to result in spending less time with people. Before I had kids, I was so sociable and very extroverted. I have days where I feel extremely lonely, and I end up just listening to audiobooks, playing, you know, podcasts with people speaking, so I can feel like I'm having some kind of adult stimulation in my brain. On days when I do get to see my friends and, like, they come here, I go to their houses and stuff like that, everything is so much easier. Like, when you're in a room with children or babies with other adults, it's like unbelievably easier. And I don't know what it is about there being multiple adults in the room, but I feel like kids, my kids anyway, they're way more likely to play independently. If I'm talking to someone else, like, they're not going to be kind of expecting me to constantly be down on the floor playing with them and stuff like that. And that is the way it would be in nature. You're not in nature going to be isolated in a house with a load of toys and no other kids or adults around for your kids to play with. So, like, there's so much demands of you, and you're in, like, baby mode so much that you kind of can tend to just really feel lonely and just want to connect to other adults and to talk to other adults about this stuff. As intentional as I try to be about friendships and stuff, now that I have kids, and, like, I've a sleepover on Saturday night where we're just going to watch Grease 2, and I see and voice note my friends as often as possible, it's still just kind of like, it's not the same, because even when you're spending time with your friend, like your brain, if to me it feels like my brain just cannot fully shut off out of mother mode. It's like, it's so dark in here, a little bit better, but yeah, it's like the responsibility never goes away. You're thinking about the rash they have, or are they in pain with their teeth coming up, or do they have a fresh nappy, or like how hungry are they now, and how long is it before they next need food, and like the thoughts never stop. And so the isolation feeling for me can come from just not being able to like to shush that for these little pockets of time that I get with people. I feel like there's more pressure on the time, and so then I feel like I can connect less. Does that make any sense at all? But it is, like, it's extremely isolating. And like, I had all these images before I had kids that, like, you know, say like my siblings would be like extremely involved with my kids. They don't live near enough. They have their own jobs and their own lives going on. And so it's not that they don't want to be involved. It's that it's life and capitalism and our society just makes it very difficult for them to be like super close with my kids. So I have found myself feeling really angry about just the way the world is for mothers and kids, and just the lack of support. Like, you get a little checkup a few weeks after you give birth, and basically if you're not suicidally depressed, you're doing great, off away with you. And you know, there's only so much your partner can help, because like they have to focus on their jobs, and the two of you have to focus on managing the house and the kids so much of the time that you're not able to just really even get enough time with each other. So like it is normal, and a lot of you sent me questions like that, and I feel you. And so that's why like videos like this, I love following other parents online. I love it, and I love Facebook groups for mothers, like different ones about bed sharing or breastfeeding or whatever, just because I feel seen when I see people write stuff, and I'm like, oh, I went through that and I'm going through that. That feels so good and validating, and just makes me feel less alone. How do you deal with your own mental health and that affecting parenting? So there were so many questions about mom rage and anxiety and all this, and I have been, as I said, way more anxious in this past year. So kind of since my youngest started getting older, and a lot of the anxiety I think is tied up in like wanting to make sure I do everything right, and worrying, am I doing this wrong, or like, you know, worrying about my kids getting sick is a huge one. I'm always like so worried of like finding out that they're gonna have some awful sickness, and just basically anxieties that don't help, like don't benefit anyone, because that's what anxiety is, isn't it? It's like an overreaction to nothing. It's like the fire alarm is going off, but the toast is just burning, and the house is not on fire. But like sometimes, yeah, my mental health starts to affect parenting. It does, I'm not gonna lie. I was also asked, you know, do I sometimes get snappy at my kids, and you know, this and the other. Of course I slip up, of course I do, and I absolutely detest when that like rage, and it's usually rage at just being stretched very thin and exhausted and not having enough time to myself. Like the most time I get to myself is when I make these videos. But yeah, when that starts to come out of me, I know it is time to text my therapist. I would be lost without therapy. I never want my kids to feel parentified, and I never want my marriage to become one big struggle based around my mental health. And that is exactly what would have happened if I didn't start therapy before we got married, like years ago. That wasn't even the start of therapy for me. That was like me revisiting therapy. I am just one of those people with so much to unpack from childhood, and I have so many worries about passing things on to my kids that I don't want to. You know, I want to end certain cycles of generational trauma, and that is what therapy is helping me to do, and it helps me to be the best mother that I can be. Yeah, we've had sessions all about exhaustion. We've had sessions about comparing myself with other mothers, and like the fact that I don't do things the way a lot of people do nowadays when it comes to just a lot of my approach to parenthood and all the various anxieties that crop up. So you should work with your partner or whoever is in your life helping you to just fit in the time for it, because like, how are you meant to look after a kid if you're not looking after yourself? Yeah, the tone in the house changes when I'm not doing very well. And that just comes in bursts. Someone asked, how do you find time for yourself that feels like pre-baby you? And how I'm struggling. And someone was asking, you know, how do I deal with the change in identity and that kind of a thing. A lot of people asking like how to feel more like you. Something I'm finding really hard is just accepting that me is different now. You know, like it's not like I've like lost myself. I have a bit lost myself, but not that I've lost myself and I've nothing left. It's that I've turned into a new version of myself. It's called matrescence. You should Google it. You should read into it. Just the transition into motherhood, like adolescence. It is a big deal. You go through a lot, physically, mentally, emotionally, and I have not fully landed on, you know, who am I now yet. So a lot of the time I find myself clinging to things past me liked, because it's not that I don't like those things anymore. I love them. It is just that a lot of the time I don't have time or place for them in my life because other things are more important. But that doesn't mean I don't still love them, like getting my nails done. I did a video with yous sitting right here actually a few months ago where I was like, oh, I don't remember the last time I got my nails done. Fitting in a bit of time every like 6 weeks to 8 weeks, like 40 minutes this took, getting my husband to just bring the kids for a walk while I pop into the salon. No, it's not getting to go to a spa for a day, but it's better than nothing. And very intentionally carving out pockets of time for stuff like that is just unbelievably important for me. Just recently, like, I've started going on the odd walk on my own with my big headphones, just blasting music. And, you know, obviously I can go for a walk with the buggy, but I don't get to properly listen to music then. My kid wants to talk to me and I'm like listening out for my baby who's like at the front of the double buggy. I'm listening out to make sure she's okay and don't want to be ignoring my kid, just like listening to music. So yeah, just going for walks by myself, and like whenever I get to have a bath alone, now usually someone walks in, one of the children comes in, or I have to hop out after, 10 minutes or whatever, but I still just try and do it. And there are weeks where mama ain't getting no time because of, developmental leaps that the kids go through. Like the Wonder Weeks app goes through a lot of those, explains a lot of those if you don't have that. But like, and the teething and the sleep regressions and just life stuff, other stuff, so much stuff comes in the way. My coffee's gone cold. So this is me a few hours after filming, and I forget to put on mascara in this video, so just never mind that. I did put it on eventually. It's funny, like Thomas and I have pinpointed the combination of things that leads me to feeling like I'm going to have a mental breakdown, and it's usually not having enough time to myself combined with not enough sleep and not being on top of work. So like if I haven't just freshly posted content and I haven't had a good night's sleep for like 2 or 3 nights in a row, and I've also not had like any what we call mammy must have time for say over a week or 2 weeks. And when I say mammy must have time, for me that means about 30 minutes of just uninterrupted time for myself. So, and I can do whatever I want with that. I can have my bath, I can scroll, I can cook and listen to a YouTube video in the background, whatever. That's when we know that, it's time for me to just be very open about what I need. And if he can't help with carving out that time, say for, whatever work commitments he has, and like with the house renovation going on as well, so like there's a lot going on, so it's not always possible. But then I have to say to my dad or my mother-in-law, look, I'm drowning at the moment, and I would really appreciate if like you can have child 1 and then while child 2 is like having a nap, then I'll fit it in, you know. Need some tips on good time management with balancing kids, work and housework. Girl, if I had them, I think I would be so wealthy, because it's just a shit show. Like, kids strapped onto me doing the dishwasher while the other kid plays with dishes on the floor, chopping veg on the floor with one kid while the other kid is in the high chair slamming things and is watching, and I stink and the house is an absolute tip. Like, it's just, that's just the way it is for a time. I feel like until they're a certain age, it's just really it's just a lot. Like, again, as I said, it's not meant to be this way, just all on one person's back or two people's backs. Even on days when Thomas and I don't have anything else to do, it's so much easier when it's the two of us and we're both not working, but it's still a lot. Like, you still aren't really slowing down. But you can manage it when, I feel like, when there's 2 adults to 2 kids and you don't have any like actual immediate job that you have to do. But even on those days, it's still going on a treadmill 90 miles an hour. Did you Google less with the second baby? Definitely. I found having my daughter so much easier. And yeah, you've done it all before, but like, I will say all kids are so different. So there were situations with her that I didn't experience with my first. Yeah, overall, like, she just kind of came along and just slotted right in there. And oh, it's slower. Someone said, what wonder moment has Ren given you? So Ren is my daughter, renovation baby. She hugs you. Like, since she was about 9 months old, I want to say, she like fully cuddles. She just hugs me with her face. I cannot believe how adorable she is. She's just so affectionate and like gentle, and all the things that I don't know if I've been like socialized to think that way, or like girls are more often just like that in my own experience of life, but like, she's in my mind such a girl. She's already walking at 11 months. Like, she says at all day. She's at, everything is at. She can say mama, dada, nana, but that's her word that she goes to, her go-to word. Yeah, in a way, your second child, like, they're almost like a forgotten child. Like, you know, with your first and they're cutting their first tooth and you're so like focused on the first tooth coming down, and then your second child suddenly has like a few teeth and you're like, oh, I don't get as much one-on-one time to like really focus on her and stuff, because sometimes I just out of the corner of my eye notice her doing something so cute and amazing, like it's her first time figuring out how to put something in and out of a bucket, like, and I'll just be staring at her like, oh my god, I wish I had more time to just bask in her glory, because she's such perfection. What has been the most surprising thing about being a mom of 2? This shouldn't have been surprising, but the love I feel seeing them interact with each other when they're not aware of me watching is next level. Like, I just, that's the one thing that makes me want more kids. You know, not wanting them to only have each other. It's like wanting them to have that with like loads of people. And I say loads as if I'm going to have 5. No, I'm not. Like, if I ever had more, it would be 1 more. But like, there's that. On the flip side, like the hard thing I feel like that surprised me is that my husband and I don't know who said this, but like, you become like 2 single parent families, and that quote stuck in my head. It's really true. Like, one of you is usually always so dedicated and focused on one kid at a time. We less so get to act as a unit. A bit more now because baby's bigger. Like, now we can all go out for like lunch and it's not horrible experience. Like, it's actually fun, and you know, we can get through a lunch in a restaurant with no screen time or anything and have like a nice time. But most of the time, yeah, one of us is like on this child duty, the other is on this child duty, and so yeah, you kind of tend to like miss one another more. Do you ever grieve for the old you or old life even though you're immensely happy now? I think anyone who says that they don't think about their life before, or sometimes get sad that certain aspects of that life are gone and feel very cut off, and or feel like bringing those things back in feels very distant into the future and stuff like that. I feel like surely you're lying. Like, surely everyone... Now, no, I say that. Do you know what I think makes this harder? Is when you have kids older. Because you've already built an entire adult life where you're not a parent, so you're very set in your ways. I was anyway. Like, I was so used to so much time spent in my own head and time that I could just watch all the movies and wander around Dublin into loads of different cafes and just like meet up with people and have coffees and, you know, go on nights out, go off on little weekends away and little trips and yeah, spend all of my, you know, disposable income on just stuff for myself, like going for facials. And now I like look at my money and I'm like, right, you know, what things do the kids need? What things do we need to do to the house? And the reason we're like focusing so much on this house is because this house is going to be their home and our family home, and it'll be left for them. And I do think that maybe people who have kids very young, maybe they don't struggle, I suppose, with this as much. I feel like maybe the older you get and the more of a like life you've built up, your career, all of that stuff, and that changing then when kids come along, when you don't know what you're missing, maybe it's easier and you don't think about it much. But like, I do get thoughts about that time of my life, but this life that I have now is so amazing in so many other ways that everything I have now is all I wanted back then. So that's one thing that just makes it not feel like grief or whatever, is because back then I spent all of my time in my head on my walks thinking about my kids. What will they look like? What will they be like? What will we do together? Who will I have the kids with? And all the things we're going to do together, all the places we're going to go, all the memories we're going to make, Christmases, them doing their little shows in school, and, you know, when they have their first partners, and like all of this whole life that I would be dreaming about. So it's very easy, I think, to look back with rose-tinted glasses and think, you know, oh, that was so amazing. The thing is, I think I thought that when I had all this, I would also have, you know, the odd trip away and the odd day to myself with my friends and, like, you know, weekly date nights with my husband. I didn't realise how all-consuming it would be, and that I'd have to park a lot of things for, you know, a time, a season, come back to that stuff in the future. Like, you know, writing, I really miss writing books, and there's so many things that I miss doing. Like, going to restaurants with Thomas. I used to just love doing that so much, and it's just rare now that we'll do that without the kids, and it's not the same trying to eat a meal in a restaurant with children. Having lived both lives, having lived like this life minus all that like fun single person stuff, and having lived the amazing life that I had minus children and minus family life and minus the responsibilities of the house, I would pick this life 1,000,000 times over. That doesn't mean I'm not allowed to like think about the past and miss certain elements of it and miss certain aspects of it. And I do wish I could take the best of this and the best of that and blend them together. But that's an ideal world that doesn't exist. So, you know, we live in the real world and we just adapt, get used to the way things are. Which part of motherhood are you most excited for? For me, it's adult children. Oh, all of it. Like, if I could only answer one thing, it would probably be adult children, definitely. That is just going to be so amazing, seeing the people that my children will become, and I hope that I parent well enough that my kids want to be around me when they're older. I feel like that's a big sign that you've done something right, that your kids choose to spend their free time with you when they're an adult. Like, I'm terrified of the teenage stage, but I'm also excited about it as well, just because I feel like I'll be good at handling it. I remember so clearly what I felt like I needed from my parents as a teenager, and I hope that I'll be able to provide that for my kids. But then there's all the worries about like what will technology be like by that time in their future, and you know, how much will the world change with environmental issues we're having and stuff. So there's a lot with it, but the main thing I feel when I think about the future and my kids is just excitement. And like when they're 18, if they want to be on my social media, they're going to be on my social media with me if I'm still doing this, if this still even exists, like if the internet hasn't blown up by then. And if any of you are still along for the ride, like there'll be these full ass people. Sleep update for both kiddos, someone asked. So both my kids currently take a middle of the day nap. Baby goes to sleep for her nap a little bit earlier because she's only recently transitioned to the one nap, but days are so much easier now that I'm not working around a million naps. And yeah, I just breastfeed my baby to sleep or push them in the buggy. I didn't think my 3-year-old would still need naps at this stage, but he cannot make it to bedtime. If he doesn't nap after preschool, he just passes out at like 5 o'clock. So I've just always followed their signals. I let them lead the way. Baby girl, I can just leave a video baby monitor with her and, you know, keep an eye on that. And my son, like whenever he's asleep, he's way too big to need a monitor now, which is great. Like he'll just get up and run down the hall when he's done. And then for night times, the 3-year-old is still sleeping through. He sometimes has a nightmare or wants a bit of water, but he sleeps through. We still lay with him as he falls asleep, but I have introduced the sleep competition, and oh my god, I need to like make a reel or something about this. Is the best sleep hack for toddlers. We introduced it when he was a toddler, but it still works. And what it is I make going to sleep into this big fun game because they're so naturally competitive. Now there's no rewards that are like food based or, you know, like chocolate or like toys or whatever. The reward for the person who falls asleep first out of me and my son is like, oh, I'm gonna win, and so if I win, I get to drive the toy through the car wash that we made in the morning first. And he'll be like, no, I'm gonna win. And he doesn't even really know like why he wants to win a lot of the time, but he just then closes his eyes and he just goes to sleep, passes out. It's unbelievable. We always read a couple of books first, and it'll only work if he's actually tired, but it's just changed my life. So he loves going to bed and he sleeps great. He goes down around 8 and then he wakes up around 6 at the moment, but like that changes very often. My 11-month-old, she's finally started sleeping in later in the mornings, so we're kind of finally starting to have like 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. wake ups, but she goes to bed really early, so she goes to bed at like 6:30 or 7, so she will be in the bed ish for like 11 to 12 hours, but she is still latching on every like 2 to 3 hours at night to feed, and sometimes has like a period where she's awake, but she's not crawling all over the place, she's just kind of lying there chatting to herself or like scratching the sheets or whatever, and it's really annoying. But I'm wrecked. I'm so wrecked from the night feeds. If you're nursing, you know, like they wake often to latch back on for comfort. Like mine, they don't take soothers. I am the walking soother. I do not mind it. It is one of my favorite things about having kids is like cuddling them and being able to nurse them back to sleep, and just it's the only time I get to really, really cuddle them while they're still awake. It's lovely. And because the rest of the time they're like trying to walk and run around, and so that's where we're at. Myself and baby girl are in here on a super king size mattress on the floor with guardrails on, which she never even gets near because she just lays very still while she's asleep. And my son sleeps in his own room, and a lot of the time my husband will end up just like staying in there, because if he wakes up during the night and one of us isn't there, then he'll come look for us. So Thomas and I try and just have our alone time before we go to sleep, and then while we're actually asleep, it's like he is looking after the older child, I'm looking after the baby. I feel like the way it's going to go is they'll have their own room once she's 18 months, so she's big enough to sleep beside another kid, and then if one of them wakes, one of us will go into them, And then when they're even bigger than that, then we're going to get them bunk beds. Do you think you'll raise your son and daughter differently? More cautious with your daughter, etc. I've thought about this really hard and like, no. Like, I think I would have answered that before, that yeah, I'd probably be different with a girl, especially when she's a teenager and stuff like that. But really, you know, for example, like when it comes to like stuff like conversations around unprotected sex, and like, yes, my daughter will be more at risk that because she's the one who can get pregnant. But if my son got someone pregnant, you better believe that I would be making sure that he was responsible for his part in that, and you know, that would be my grandchild as well. And like, yeah, so no, like, and boys have their own whole host of mental health stuff that they go through. There's all a whole set of pressures on them. I think that ensuring that they learn to be kind, respectful, that they have patience, that they know how to look after themselves and look after their minds, teaching them resilience, modeling stuff. Like, if I want them to learn a certain behavior, I have to model that. Like, I don't think it's going to be different at all when it comes to like how I approach that with the two of them. What age has been the most difficult to deal with for you personally so far? For me, it's when they start crawling. For about 6 months after they start crawling, I just feel like that stage, it's just so, like, you're constantly handing them different objects and lifting them up and putting them down. And yeah, a lot of the, like, when the molars are coming up and stuff like that. But I've found it that it gets easier the older that they get. What is one bit of advice you would tell a first-time mom who is scared to mess up? Don't be scared, because you're going to mess up anyway. None of us are perfect. There's not a single perfect parent walking this earth. Let go of some of that pressure. Like, yeah, someone asked me, if there was anything you could have done differently, what would that be? You know, I feel like the fact that I didn't embrace baby-led weaning more on my first, I do feel like that has correlated with a lot of his sensory issues around foods and trying new things and stuff. You might remember from a lot of my videos back then that we used to offer him things, you know, like different veg, different this, that and the other, different concoctions. And like, if he didn't like the taste of it, I kind of just stopped constantly offering it, because it was just very annoying to constantly be making things and then getting rid of them. Like, I don't like throwing away food. But I was also like really anxious about him choking on like certain things. I felt comfortable giving him certain things that were like really soft or like melted in his mouth, whatever, that he would hold to eat. But I just wish I had followed solid starts when he was a baby, and I had done that more, because with my daughter we've done full like baby led, given her some purees, but full like baby led weaning, and given her just absolutely anything and everything in the right sizes and cut the right way and stuff. But she eats anything that we give her. She loves all kinds of foods, all kinds of fruit, veg, meats, fish, grains, beans, everything. And yeah, that's just, you know, I fucked up on that, I think, and it's just going to happen. You're not going to do everything perfect the first time. How do you deal with the feminist/sexist side in terms of being put into a traditional role by yourself or others? I could make an entire video on this, but honestly, like, I've been questioning a lot of what I thought was like feminism, like a lot of my more feminist ideas and ways in which I thought I was being feminist, ways of thinking that I believed were feminist, and also just even what we have been taught as women, as feminists, that we can have it all. We can have this big amazing career, and we can have kids, and we can easily do the both of those things because we're strong independent women. And now I view so much of that as like, it's made so many women feel like absolute failures. The fact that they, you know, they're like, oh, actually I don't want to be spending all of my time at this job while someone else has my kid all day. I would like to be doing that, but but I need this money because I was told, oh, go to college and get this career and then have your family and push it down the line. And then they do that and they do everything they were told to do. And then they're not happy with what they have at the end of that. I just think women, I don't think there's any shame whatsoever in feeling like you would love to just be able to just, right, I want to spend for my child's first 5 years of life till they're in school, I would love to just do the motherhood thing and not have to worry about the financial consequences of not also running myself into the ground to try and earn a living. The way the world has put mothers in that situation is disgraceful, and it's been packaged up as like this thing to strive for. Like, women are so amazing when they can just, oh, look at all the things she can do at the same time and juggle all the, she can't fucking do them all. She's drowning. Almost every woman I speak to who works and has kids expresses the same things to me. The way it was before, where the women had no choices and stuff, obviously trash. In the bin. It's just gone from one extreme to another extreme, and I don't think either of them are serving women very well. Like, there's this shame attached to being in a more traditional role where, like, you are the main caregiver at home and your partner's like the main breadwinner. The fact that we have shame around that is horrible. Like, because then what about the women who choose that? Like, what is their choice to be a stay-at-home mother lesser than because they don't want to have an office job? Like, it's just so bizarre to me, and I'm unpacking a lot of layers of like socialization that's been there for a very long time. One more, because there's way too many questions and I have to finish getting dressed and go to my event tonight. Cannot believe I'm leaving the house without the kids. Do you find that motherhood changed your view on how your parents raised you? Oh my God, yes. I feel so much compassion for my parents now. Empathy. I feel so much more connected to them. I have so much love for them and so much respect for them. They were in their early 20s, like, having me, and yeah, it was a world with no internet. They couldn't Google this and that and the other. They had a house when they were like really young as well, and like second jobs, and you know, their own stuff from their own childhoods. They didn't live anywhere near family who could be helping them to raise us, and you know, they divorced when we were quite young, and I used to have a lot of feelings about that. You know, like when my parents broke up and my mum had a new boyfriend, and I remember then I couldn't sleep in the bed with her anymore because, you know, she had a man who wasn't my biological dad there, and they were in a new relationship. Like, would have been weird for him. But like at the time, I only saw everything through my experience, because that's when you're a kid, that's the way you see the world. And on the weekends, I used to go out to my dad's, and he let us sleep with him still because, you know, there was no other woman in the bed. Like, I latched on more to my dad because he was taken out of the picture and he wasn't around. And then, you know, he got to have us a lot of the time when he wasn't working, so he was around, he was playing with us and doing all the fun stuff and all that. My mum was working all week and coming home absolutely exhausted, and then we weren't there on the weekend when she had her free time. And I remember as a kid just having this image of my mum and this different image of my dad, and I used to like to think a certain way about her because she didn't play with us as much or whatever. And I'm just now like going through trying to juggle having an income with all of the house tasks and with bringing up the two kids who both need you so much, but you're like pulling yourself from one kid to the other kid. Like, I just feel like so many of the feelings I had about my parents just have like floated off of me since I had kids, because I'm just like, they literally were doing their absolute best. And a lot of like the really good things, I used to they used to be overshadowed by bad memories or like bad situations or whatever things I had an issue with. And now it's like the other way around. So that's been a beautiful gift that having children has given me. Like, just so much more understanding of my parents and love for them. And yeah, like, I obviously already loved them, but it's just made me find peace, I suppose, with a lot of lots of things about my childhood, like lots of things I will never be able to talk about online, for one reason or another. But yeah, it is crazy to realize, like, oh, I'm 34, and then think back about your parents when they were 34 and what you thought of them. Like, they were like God, and I'm not God, but my kids see me like that. So like it I'm trying really hard to like bring that into my parenting and think about that. If you know, if I'm like really stressed and I want to like lose the rag and shout, and I'll look at my kid's little hands, and he's so young, he's so small, I'll remember that to him I'm this big old godlike figure, like the way my parents were to me. And it just makes me think, like, what did I like, what comforted me when I was that age. Yeah, it's crazy. And a lot of the things that my parents did are things that I'm not doing, and a lot of the things that they didn't do I am doing because of my own experiences. And yeah, but there's just so much more understanding there. So anyway, yes, I am going to go and brush my hair and have another cup of coffee and some food, and then I'm going to go into town. I'll have to like do a huge breastfeed before I leave the house because the boobs are getting a bit full and painful. But I hope you liked this video. I can do videos like this so much more if I know that you like them, so just please like it and comment if you do enjoy them. As I said, we all need this. Weird video ending today. When I was a kid, I used to play with my mom's makeup brushes. So this would be the face. I had dolls, right? But with a makeup brush, I can like use my imagination so much more. So like, yeah, this was their hair, this was their body. This brush is Celine Dion. It's concert night, guys. Don't say what you're about to say. Look back before you leave my life. Be sure before you close that door.